Hello, this is Dr. Solomon, and I'm here with another video lecture for Children's Literature class, or RDG 2306. And today we're talking about motivation, and in particular boys, but all motivation and that motivation to read. That's one thing that we all teachers want is for kids to really want to read. So, there are three main things that I want to get out of the way right at the beginning that you need to know about kids and reading and motivation. And the three biggest factors that really help motivation are one, something we've already talked about before, is choice. That they have a choice in what they're reading. A second one is self-efficacy, and that just means that what they think about the book matters. So the old-fashioned way when the teacher would, you would read, Romeo and Juliet, and the teacher would tell you, well, this part means this and this part means that, and so the teacher would just kind of tell you what it meant. Well, that's not giving kids the self-efficacy to say, okay, what I'm reading is important, what I think is important. So that's the second one. And then the third one is just an opportunity to talk about books. Is very motivating for kids. If you've ever been in a situation where everybody's talking and everybody's excited about something and then either you didn't read it or something that they're kind of out of the loop, and kids never want to be out of the loop. So that opportunity to talk about books is very motivating for them. Now, the article, the main focus is on boys and their lack of motivation to read and why that happens sometimes. And I don't want you to think too much about just zeroing in on boys because, I play both sides of that in the sense that we do need to pay attention to how boys in reading, particularly since we as teachers are mostly middle class, white, and female. So I'd already told you before, there's that conflict that you need to read things that you enjoy. Because when you read things that you enjoy, you give that joy, you show joy in reading to your students. But there's that conflict, and then a lot of the things that we enjoy aren't necessarily the things that little boys might enjoy. So there is kind of a conflict there in making sure that you're presenting stuff that you really, really love. So kids will learn from you that you love books, right? And it's not just a school job, it's something that you can do anytime for fun, but also to have plenty of different things in the classroom to read and lots of varieties of things to read. And so there's also, too, that conflict of we want to look at boys and help them to be better readers. But we also need to consider that most of the strategies that help boys become better readers are things that really help everybody to become better readers. Having a variety of different types of text helps everybody. Everybody needs to look at nonfiction. Everybody needs to look at humor. So that's kind of a thing as well. Boys do tend to enjoy reading less. There are stereotypes, the things that they grow up with, that boys are active, and they're doing things, they're not sitting and reading a book, so stereotypes really kind of lend in to how boys see themselves. Another thing is that there is some brain research, the article goes into that in depth, that says that boys might be less developmentally ready by the time girls are to sit down and to learn to read. So there's all sorts of things like that out there. Let's see. Next, I have three books that I wanted to share with you. These are three books that I really like. This one is one of my very favorite books. It's called Flight, and it's by Robert Burleigh, and it's my dog. And it is about the journey of Charles Lindbergh. Now, Charles Lindbergh is a real person. He's a person that actually lived, and the article talks about how boys like nonfiction. They like to learn stuff from what they read. Okay, those little boys, and like I said, it's little girls too. But that little boy that all of a sudden he's an encyclopedia about dinosaurs because he's read everything about dinosaurs and he keeps it and then he repeats it. He tells everybody he knows everything he knows about trains and everything he knows about dinosaurs. Well, this is a book where the little boy would take off and tell everything he knew about Charles Lindbergh or want to learn more. So the thing I like about this, the book talked about how boys are really attracted to really bold colors and really interesting pictures. And I like this book because it's realistic, but there's something about it that's almost like a big book, you know? Like look how it uses, the book isn't that big, but it really uses the page. It starts, it is 1927, and his name is Charles Lindbergh. Later, they will call him the Lone Eagle. Later, they will call him Lucky Lindy, but not now. Now, it is May 20th, 1927, and he is standing in the still dark dawn. He watches rain drizzle down on the airfield and on the small plane. The airplane has a name painted on its side, Spirit of St. Louis. Okay, so I mean, there's dates there, there's the name of who he became, there's the name of the plane that are all in there. I like this book because I think it's beautiful. Look at those pictures. I mean, it just looks like almost like a photograph, but so realistic. And I like it because the language is very rhythmic. Here's what he is in the ice and snow up in the air. I mean, up in the sky, in the atmosphere. And here he is, you know, in the cold, dark of the night. And like I said, the language is very poetic, so that's why I like it so much. But I could see why boys would like it because of the pictures and because of the nonfiction. And here he is. He's landing in London, I think. Yeah, Paris. No, Paris. He landed in Paris. And then here he is. He's become a hero to fly across the Atlantic like that. And people are grabbing him up and putting him on his shoulders, putting him on their shoulders. And he's looking back because he sees people taking pieces of the plane. You know that people do that, right? Nowadays, we know that people want souvenirs and people, you know, take things of famous people. But back then, he was pretty much the first famous person, you know, the truly famous person. And then I like, here he is, he's talking to the reporters. And again, look at those pictures. They're real, just huge and big. There's something about them that just really stand out. And then I like the last page. There he is asleep because he'd been awake all that time in that plane. So he's finally getting some sleep here. All right. Okay. So you can see where it's a true story, tells the story of a real person. Kids can learn from a story like this. So that's a book that boys like. I have another book here that boys like. Now, I bought this book, but I think, you know, as a teacher, you get to go, I think my little boys will like that, you know. So I don't think I've ever necessarily read this book because it's kind of gross, but it's called Mummies, and it's actual mummies. So we got it in the Scholastic catalog one time. And this is a real, like I like to say, a real kid-loved book. That's why it's kind of falling apart, because my students, you know, loved it to death. So this is a book about mummies and their mysteries, Charlotte Wilcox. And this one's got real pictures and real mummies in it. Here are some teeth there. How about that? How about that? You think little boys would like to read about those teeth? Let me see what it says. Teeth from ancient mummies are often worn down more than is common today. In desert areas like Egypt, where this mummy was found, blowing sand got into food and water, causing wear on the teeth. Not surprisingly, many people in ancient times had bad toothaches. Woohoo! Okay, let's see. What else we got here? Now this one's interesting. Here is, I guess it's a mummy from the Incas right there. It says in the caption, the Incas and their ancestors used mummy bundles like this one. So this is a mummy bundle. And it's got a little outline. It shows how the person is in there. The body sits with its knees drawn up to the chest, making a bulge in the middle. The smaller bulge at the bottom is the feet. See that? All right. So that's one. Again, you can learn a lot from it. It's nonfiction, very striking and interesting pictures to draw you in. Real photographs. I mean, what's not to love here? You can show. Oops, I'll show you that one. Yeah, what's not to love if you're a little boy? Okay. All right, and you know, you think about boys that like blood, they like gore, they like violence, mummies, yay. So here is, now this is a silly book. This is a very considered a classic, you know, book for boys. The Stinky Cheese Man. pull this down a little bit, and Other Fairly Stupid Tales by John Schweiska and Lane Smith. And they have made it kind of their mission to create stories that boys like. So they even have a website about, boys read, and writing kind of stories that boys would like. So here is a pretty crazy picture there. So once upon a time, there was a mother duck and a father duck who had 7 baby ducklings. 6 of them were regular looking ducklings. The 7th was a really ugly duckling. Everyone used to say, "What a nice looking bunch of ducklings." All except that one. Boy, he's really ugly. The really ugly duckling heard these people, but he didn't care. He knew that one day he would probably grow up to be a swan and be bigger and look better than anything in the pond. There you go. Well, as it turned out, he was just really an ugly duckling, and he grew up to be just a really ugly duck. The end. Okay, so there's kind of that kind of silly, snarky humor there. Okay. All right, so wanted to talk to you a little bit about motivation and kind of enhance the most important parts of the article that we read for this week. And I wanted you to start thinking now about your classrooms and all the blood and gore and violence and silly humor that you can maybe bring in as much as you can stand for your boys. All righty.